All right. Welcome to this episode of Monetizing Your Mental Capital. I'm your host, Will Christensen, and I am super excited about our guest today. We have Kevin King with us. Kevin, part of the reason we didn't, introduce or go into your background or my background at the beginning of this is because the first question I ask is, imagine you're an e-commerce seller and you're considering the idea of maybe starting some sort of productized service or an ebook or maybe an agency, or you're thinking about, I got to diversify my portfolio. I know how to do the physical products, but how about the mental ones? How about the non-physical products? If that's a desire, which most e-commerce sellers I know are like, oh yeah, diversifying, like not having to deal with inventory, I want to try that. We found that they don't always know what they're getting into when they want to get into the service-based business. But why would someone like that, someone in that e-commerce headspace, why would they want to hear from you about monetizing mental capital?
Oh, well, the service-based business, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people in the Amazon space, especially, go into the service business because they fail at selling products.
Uh-oh.
Um, so that, and you can sell digital air. So you have a lot of people, there's some really good people in the service provider business. I'm not knocking everybody, but there's quite a few that, they gave it a shot trying to sell products on Amazon, and exactly what you said, they realize, I got to wear 26 different hats here, especially in the beginning. And this is not easy. And I'm juggling cash, and it seems like there's money coming into the bank, but it's going out as fast as it's coming in. I'm not putting any of it in my pocket. What if I just take this knowledge of this, everything that I figured out here over the last 6 months or year or 3 years or however long it's been, and let me package that up and I can sell it, sell air, and just sell my time and set up a team and leverage that and use what I know. And then I'm actually putting money in my pocket much quicker than having to, spend 10 grand or 20 grand or 100 grand on inventory and wait 90 days, 120 days, whatever, to even see any of it back. And then start this cycle of, oh, I'm doing well. Now I need another 200 grand now. So, just robbing Peter to pay Paul and trying to get this thing going. So it's sometimes on the service side, it's easier and you can focus on what you do best. You don't have to wear 26 different hats. If you're good at PPC, you focus on PPC. If you're good at listings or writing copy or whatever it is, you can just focus on that. And there's enough of a market out there where you can niche down. You couldn't do that 2015, 2016, really. But now you can niche down, and there's Amazon says 800 new sellers a day are coming on Amazon or something like that. I think is what the stat is. A lot of them never end up selling anything, but a lot of them do. And so the market's huge, and a lot of them get into the same situation you might have been in, where you're pulling out your hair trying to figure things out, and they're like, I just let someone handle it for me, and they'll come to you.
Okay, so Kevin, this is actually a little terrifying because I think what you might have just uncovered for me, because I considered that a lot of people who were sellers became agencies. I feel like, especially in the agency space for e-commerce, I hear a lot of bad experience stories where a seller hires somebody and it didn't go well. I'm wondering if some of those agency owners maybe took a step outside of what they knew worked, or because they didn't know how to do it as a brand, like they weren't successful brand owners. They were not successful brand owners, which is why they came to be an agency. That makes me a whole new lens of like how I'm judging which which agency to hire.
I mean, if I'm going to hire an agency and the owner is still actively selling and doing seven figures, that's a big plus in the win column for me. But basically, three probably things that happen there. One is they step out the side of their knowledge zone, like you said. Another one is they don't know what the hell they're doing. They think they do, but they don't really know what the hell they're doing. And another one is especially on the PPC side, where they start hiring people. It happens mostly there, but it can happen across the board. But they start hiring people and you don't know what you're getting. On PPC, people always ask me, what's the best PPC agency? And I'm like, I don't care about the name on the wall or the name that you're writing the checks to. I care about the person that's managing your account. So it's all about that person. So it may be X, Y, and Z agency may have 20 people managing PPC accounts, and 3 of them are really damn good, and the other 17 are just okay. And if you get one of the damn good ones, you're going to be saying X, Y, and Z agency is a freaking awesome agency. Go with them. But then your buddy goes and hires him, and he doesn't get that person. He gets one of the 17. And like, man, these guys, this is not so good. So it's all in the person more than it is the name of the agency. And that's the problem with agencies, is managing. And some of them have systems and SOPs and standard things that they do, and that definitely can help. But I still say it's all in the person. When I'm pretty well known in the space, and when I started hiring my first PPC agency, I went with Clear Ads out of the UK.
Yeah.
But he didn't. It was me. So he's like, we can't F this up. So he was like, George, the owner, was on every single call. This is during COVID.
I know George.
On every single call during COVID. I was working like crazy during COVID, keeping myself busy. So I would do calls at 1 or 2 a.m. my time. I'm a late night person anyway. And so that would be like 8 o'clock in the morning in the UK.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he would be on the call with the rep, and he was on every single call for like the first year or so, and just making sure that everything was done right. But not everybody's going to get that.
So what you're saying is, if you want a good PPC agency, you got to build a name like Kevin King, and then the owner of the company will.
Yeah, well, it happens frequently. I've had it happen with other stuff too. So I'm probably not the right person to say who's good and who's bad, because I get unfair treatment.
You get some special.
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
I mean, you earned that, right? Like, I mean, that's mental capital you monetized, right?
Yeah,
because
it is.
Although there wasn't, like, I bet you if George, I met him at the Accelerate by Pattern show last year, and really cool dude. I bet you George doesn't give that package out for free. Like you probably didn't pay anything extra for that package.
No, I didn't pay anything extra, and he was making special software for me, like special spreadsheets and stuff, and wasn't charging me extra for it. Well, but he knows that if he did a good job, I am in a position where I can refer a lot of people. So people ask me this all the time about, who's a good shipping agent, who's a good 3PL, those are agencies in a different way. And I won't recommend anybody unless I've personally used them.
Yeah.
So if someone just pushes me and says, hey, who's a good listing company to write your listings? I haven't ever used a listing company. I do my own. But if I had to say, I would say, well, I've heard good things from people I trust about this one, but I can't endorse them.
Yeah.
So I'm careful on that. And sometimes people think I'm just him and Han, or trying to like not, but it's because I don't want to, my name is on the line. If I tell you, Will, say, hey, go to use George at Clear Ads, and you go use them and you have a bad experience, then you're like, man, Kevin recommended this crappy company. And I don't know if I want to ask him anymore. Yeah. So I'm very careful on who I recommend. Now, if they're buying an ad in my newsletter, or they're sponsoring my $1 Billion Seller Summit or something, that's that they're sponsoring. So,
it's a sponsor.
It's a sponsor. I make that clear. But that doesn't mean that I think they're the best. And I have some sponsors that do a certain task that I don't think they're actually the best in the business.
Yeah. I get you.
But as part of their sponsorship, I'm going to push them. They're paying.
So that's super interesting, Kevin, because as you monetize mental capital here, and I want to talk a little bit about that. As you pick apart like that's the service you got from George, making these custom spreadsheets, all of the above. I bet he would charge a couple grand a month at least extra to anybody else who wanted that level of service. So you monetized your mental capital there by the sheer reputation. What did you suspect that building the reputation you've built was going to help you get, thousands of dollars of extra service?
No, I didn't build the reputation as an educator, informer, influencer, or whatever you want to call it, on purpose. I was a seller. I started in 2015. I started selling on Amazon in 2001. But I started the FBA model that most people are doing now in 2015. And I started 5 brands, and I was just launching 5 brands with my money. And I had a silent partner put in. We started with a couple $100,000. So we did it right. We weren't coming in with our lifetime savings of 5,000 like a lot of people. And we started 5 different brands. And I was on the Helium 10 Facebook group. It was back then. It was called FBA High Rollers. I think it was part of the group that was set up as a part of the podcast that Manny Coates was doing for the AM/PM podcast, which I now host. And people were posting stuff in there about landing pages and posting stuff about different things. And it was just all flat wrong. People would post something like, oh, don't use a landing page. It's going to hurt your conversion. It's going to do this, it's going to do that, it's going to do this. And people would just start parroting it. And so I would go in there and say, look, guys, you're all full of crap. This is not how it works. You guys don't know what you're talking about. And I would set them straight, and I get a little bit of pushback, and then other people are like, thank you. And then Manny saw that and he said, hey, will you come on the podcast? I'm like, no, I'm just a seller. I was just participating. I was bored one day. I usually don't participate that much, and set these guys straight. Said, no, come on the podcast. So in March of 2016, I recorded a podcast with him, and I just said it like it is. And, most people either don't have the experience to say that, or they're afraid to say it. And it resonated. And so it just exploded from there onto me speaking on pretty much every continent except Africa and Antarctica for Amazon events. I've probably been on 200 podcasts. I don't know how many virtual events. I hope, I now run the Freedom Ticket for Helium 10. I create their course for how to sell on Amazon, which is free for anybody that has a membership to Helium 10. And then I do a lot of things. But you're talking about the mental capital. What surprised me the most, and so I'm making money on this. So it's a good thing. I'm making connections. So I can use those for my own business. So that if I, because of the teaching side or the speaking side, then I meet people like, oh, if I have this problem, I know exactly who to go to because I had dinner with them and I talked to them and they sound legit, or I've seen what they've done, or I saw their presentation, or had them on the podcast, or whatever. And you just, after you've done this a while, who's real and who's not. And so it helps from that. But the biggest mental capital one that surprised me was a newsletter. In August of 2023,
Interesting.
I started a newsletter called Billion Dollar Sellers, billiondollarsellers.com. It's
Okay.
totally free every Monday and Thursday. And the way this started is I went to an AI conference because I believe in the mental capital side of things. Is you got to get outside of this fishbowl of Amazon. If you're not doing, if you're only going to Amazon events or Amazon related events, you're making a mistake. I mean, like you're talking about, you went to a different type of event here in Austin. I go to Funnel Hacking Live. I just went to the super conference with Dan Kennedy in Dallas. I go to other outside, still in the marketing realm, and a lot of times e-commerce, or sometimes even retail or AI. But I went to an AI conference in April of last year, and they were talking about using newsletters, using AI to write newsletters. Like, oh, look, you can put out all these newsletters, just let AI write it and it'll do everything. You can do this on autopilot. And I was like, yeah, you can, but those are going to suck. And I have a background in journalism from years ago. And so I decided, I'm actually want to extend my brand. And what if something goes wrong with my relationship with Helium 10, or what if something happens somewhere?
Yeah.
I need my own little thing that I control.
I need an audience.
And so an audience that I control. And so I had a list of, I don't know, 30, 40,000 Amazon sellers that have signed up for different things that I've done, or webinars or what have you. I didn't just blast out an email to them. Here's my newsletter like everybody else does. Every service provider in the space, they have what they call a newsletter. And nobody has a newsletter. They have promotional emails.
Yep.
It's all about us. It's all about them. I've
seen Chad Rubin had that Nugget Friday thing that he did for a while.
Yeah, he did that back in a while.
Back at Skibani, yeah.
There are a few. I mean, now there's a few. Isabella Ritz has something that she's doing, and Norm Farrar has something. There are a few, but the vast majority are just garbage. And so I was like, I can put a different spin on this and actually create a real newsletter that's more of a magazine and real educational. And yeah, I'll have a little bit of promo stuff in it, but it'll really help me. And the whole idea was it's a funnel for my events. I have the $1 Billion Seller Summit. I'm actually leaving tomorrow for my one in Hawaii. I got 150 people there. The average seller is doing 25.4 million. The median seller is doing 7.5. So that means half the room is over 7.5 on Amazon alone. And it's a $5,000 ticket to come.
That's awesome.
And then I do a virtual version of that each year too, which is cheaper. It's two different audiences. There's people that want to come, that networking, that experience thing, and other people who just want to sit in their underwear and watch something on their screen.
Yeah.
So I did it as a funnel for that, and both events have sold out since I started the newsletter.
So hold on.
But the newsletter has given me more mental. I don't know. It's surprising me because the power that it's given and the influence that it's given is more than me speaking on any stage, more than me hosting the Freedom Ticket. There's 200,000 people that have gone through the Freedom Ticket course. And I get recognized by Uber drivers randomly in New York. I'll get in their car and like, oh, I think I know you from somewhere. I'm like, I don't think so. And like, no, I think, helium-10, and they've watched helium-10, or I have it happen at a Walmart. Someone comes, taps me on the shoulder in a Walmart. I'm checking out in the self-serve line. Excuse me, are you Kevin King? I'm like, shit, are the cops here or what? Who's here? You work for the IRS or what? And again, I thought that was you. I saw you walking up and down the halls, getting your food or whatever, and the aisles. I mean, not halls. And I just had to come up and say hello. So, but the newsletter, because I don't just blast it to my whole list, you have to
Yeah.
double opt in to get it. So,
Yeah.
and if you don't open and click something in 30 days, I take you off. So I've taken off 3,500 people. I just kick you out. And so I keep it very much engaged. And that has given me probably the most. I have more
Wow.
people come up talk about that because it's a true newsletter. It's a true education. It's news. Here's what's happening. Here's the latest crazy thing that Amazon's done. And here's 7 ways to quickly double your conversion on your listing. And it's short, to the point, and actionable. And that's worked really well.
So, okay. You started this newsletter last year in April.
August.
Or August. Okay. So you had the idea in April at that conference.
Correct.
And then you were like, okay, I'm going to go make myself a newsletter. And by the way, the whole idea of building audiences, I have learned in my career in connecting those different dots that audience is literally the most valuable thing you can have. Like,
it is.
Like
your customer list is the most valuable. A customer list of raving, or even, they don't have to be raving fans, but that's the most valuable thing. You should be doing everything you can. My background is direct marketing. And so I have a calendar business. We have 17,000 people on the list that have bought from us directly or bought some of them off of Amazon. But when we launch a new product, it's a seasonal business. So every September, we're launching the next year's calendar. So like this year in September, we'll be launching 2025 calendars. And in September, no one's thinking about 2025 calendars. Sales are like 2 or 3 units a day.
Yeah.
But by December, sales are 400, 500 units per day per title.
Yeah.
So we use that list and we tell them, hey, you can buy from us, or if you're an Amazon Prime member, just go buy from Amazon. And so we launch without any PPC, without any buying reviews, without anything. And these guys that are buying our account, we have 4 different ones that we sell on Amazon. They're buying ours, and then they're usually buying somebody else's. So it instantly gets them easily into the frequently bought together. The customers who viewed this also viewed, and it just snowballs. And it's because we have a list, we're able to do that. And my background has been direct marketing and lists. And so building it's not just about, sometimes people say, yeah, I got 100,000 people on my email list. There's newsletters in this space that people are sending out that they say, yeah, we send this out on the rate card to 25,000 people. Well, there's one in the space that sends out to 30,000 people in the Amazon space. And I took an ad out in them, $1,800 for this ad. And I got 7 signups to my free newsletter off of an ad.
Crap.
So what does that tell you? That 30,000, the open rate and the click rate and the view rate is next to 0.
Yeah.
And then others will say, well, our open rate is 40%. And it's like, what is that? Was that your best one? Or is that your average over a month? Or, with Apple now, open rates, Apple automatically shows open rates, even if you don't open it. So it can be distorting. So there's all kinds of stuff, but it's not about the size of the list. It's about the quality of the list. And that's what a lot of people miss up on.
8,700 people, if they don't click on what's the criteria for you?
So I've had since August of last year, I've done 0 advertising. So no Facebook ads. I mailed to my list to get it going. The first issue went out August 14th to 1,700 people. So 1,700 people double opted in off of my house list to say, yes, we want this. And then since then, I've done 0 advertising. I'm mentioning it like I just mentioned it here.
Yeah.
There might be 2 people or 3 people that sign up with this. It's not going to be.
Yeah, it's not
I'm not
huge.
knocking your thing. It's just
no,
not.
I get it.
But it's referrals. It's people that get it. And then I have a referral program in there where they can earn, like, if you refer 1 person, you get 21 hacks from me. So there's a motivating factor. Or if you refer 3,
so you've
got
get
this.
A white paper that you've written for 21 hacks. And if you refer someone, you get that in your email.
It's an easy win, 1 referral. So refer somebody in your office, or if you referred 5 people, you get into a special WhatsApp group and that's a super active WhatsApp group. And then it goes on and then people that get it, they love it. The people that like it are like, this is great. This is my favorite news. Every Monday and Thursday, I look forward to getting this. I want to see, I might not read, they might not read every single thing, but they cherry pick it. Some people read every word. But then they're like, they tell their friends. And so I've grown it from those 1,700 to about 12,500 that have signed up. And I've kicked off a little over 3,500 because they did not open and click. It's not just either or, but you have to open and at least click something.
In the last 30 days.
In the last 30 days. Excuse me, or I automatically take you off. Because there's several reasons for that. I want them engaged. So if you're not paying attention, you're too busy. That doesn't mean maybe you don't want it, but you're too busy for me. You're not my customer. You're never going to buy anything from me right now. You're in a different place in your business or in your life. And also it hurts your open rates, and it hurts your deliverability with the email service providers. If they're seeing a lot of stuff coming in and it's just not getting opened.
It's not getting opened. Yeah.
That they're just going to suppress you more and put you in promotions tab or junk or whatever. So it's a combination of those things. And then I know that I'm spending my time, because it takes me, I personally write it. I don't have a team. So it's 3 or 4 hours to do every one. I personally write it and lay it out. And it's got a sense of humor to it. And, I'll call it out the Prosper Show last year. I called them out. I said, they jumped the shark. And it caused a big controversy off of that. And it turns out the last Prosper Show, they actually did a good job. They kind of turned some things around.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was because of me. Probably not, but I called them out because
I think you probably helped. There were a lot of people giving them a lot of feedback, and I actually have kind of an insider's view to that. I know some of the council members, and I was asking lots of questions, and I think one of the things they did correctly was bring more council members who actually were sellers or were in the space for a long time. And they told them, you're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong. This needs to change. This needs to change. Like it honestly, I was real curious to see where it would go. Cause I actually know a fair amount of people who didn't go to this Prosper because they had seen the show go so downhill. They were like, it's done. This thing's done for. It's not going to make it. And this show, they rebounded enough that I've had, big sponsors that I know who said, no, I'm re-upping because I can see they care enough and they're putting enough into the talking tracks. I didn't talk to one Amazon seller. I talked to like maybe 20 that were there, just randomly spot checked. Hey, how were the sessions? And they were like, the sessions were great this year.
And they did a better job. They did. I think it's part of it's like what you said. They brought up people like Destiny with Sean and some people that are actually have a clue and are smart people, rather than some corporate suit in an office somewhere that does conventions trying to run this and decide what people need.
Yep. 100%. 100%. It's fascinating to me. So you would say the most valuable piece of mental capital that you've monetized is that newsletter at this point.
I mean, both of my events this year have sold out. My contract, I have a consulting contract with Helium 10 to do the podcast and to do their 2 trainings, the Freedom Ticket for new people and their Helium 10 Elite, which is like their little mastermind.
Yeah.
It's and they pay me a lot of money for that. So they limit how many people I can have. I can have 150 people. And so both of them have sold out. Now I can't directly attribute that, because I'm doing the newsletter, these 32 people bought. I don't have that, but it's because you're constantly you're constantly reminding people that you're here. It's kind of like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, everybody knows it. They don't need to advertise, but they still put up billboards in baseball stadiums and still run ads on different places because you still need to remind people, and because the newsletters every Monday and Thursday, I stay top of mind. And so that's going to convince a few people like, the heck with it. I'm going to go to this and then I create FOMO. So I have a WhatsApp group that anybody that's ever been to one, and I've been doing them since 2019. So it's got like 500 people in that WhatsApp group. There's people that either some of them have moved on, they've sold their business or whatever, but there's people that for whatever reason I've had 26 people that spent close to $5,000 for a ticket that are not coming because they had the dates conflict with high school graduation or college graduation or some other thing. So I they don't lose the ticket. They can sell it or I roll it over to the next year's event. So they don't lose it. But there's people in there that aren't coming they see the FOMO and they're like, ah, man, and I try to make my events, they're different than anything else in the space. Most events you
Uh-huh.
go, you listen to some people talk. A lot of times, sometimes they're shitty talks, sometimes they're really good talks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then you might have a network mixer or a welcome party, or, and you get some hors d'oeuvres and then have some drinks and try to talk over loud music. That's the general
Yeah. Yep.
conference. I make them experiences. So you're in Hawaii, they we do a welcome party the first night, but we're doing it on this really cool beach. The next day, we're doing a race, like the TV show Amazing Race.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but we've got everybody into teams. I have 28 sponsors, so there's 28 service providers that has paid $2,000 each to sponsor a car. So we have 28 Avis rental cars. We have 4 or 5 people per team. Each of them has jerseys that look like F1 racing jerseys that say Gatita or Scube Drop or PPC Ninja or whatever across them.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
really cool looking. They're Hawaiian style. And the cars have magnetics, like those real estate magnetic signs on the side, with the logos. And
Yeah.
they're running around the island because a lot of times you go to a conference and all you see is the conference hall, the hotel, and maybe a restaurant or a
And they're
bar.
driving all over the
But you're going to
flip.
Kauai. This is one of the most beautiful places in the entire world,
Oh
the
my
island of
gosh.
Kauai. You need to see it. So they're going to go from deserts to water, to 10,000-foot waterfalls, to a miniature Grand Canyon, to stunning beaches, and they're competing along the way for points. And then whichever team finishes first at the end of the day, it's an all-day thing. And then you'll see on I know this is going to air after that, but you might see some of this still on social media. But the day they're doing it, they're posting the social media for extra points.
Yeah.
So that's benefit for the sponsors.
Yeah.
And it also creates FOMO out there. It's marketing for me. People are saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, what the hell is going on in Hawaii? This looks
Yeah.
pretty
Why am
cool.
I not there?
Why am I not there?" And then then we do a luau, and we do a wants and needs. We do hat
Okay,
contests for prizes. We do, and then this year though, just back on your mental thing, I'm adding something. So the BDSS event is 4 full days, 5 nights, 4 full days. And then this year I'm adding 3 more days called Level Up.
Okay.
And the reason I'm doing that is a lot of people aren't quite getting it, but in our space as an entrepreneur, the more successful you are, the
Mhm.
more you need to really take care of your mental mindset and your body. And so I'm doing an additional event where about a third of the people are staying this year. And I'm losing a little bit of money on it because it's the first one. So I just got to get it done. But I have 9 speakers, and they're not talking about Amazon. So we're switching hotels to the one, which is a sustainable hotel. Just went through a $300 million renovation. So we're doing talks on mindset, on attractive character, on entrepreneurship. There might be a little bit of AI, something in there about overcoming obstacles. And then we're mixing that in throughout the day. So there's like 4 talks per day. And there's 3 sessions where you're going and you're getting a massage, or you're getting you're doing yoga, or you're doing sound therapy, or you're doing oxygen therapy, or you're doing stuff to take care of yourself. And I bring my trainer, and we're doing workouts, and we're doing this, and then it's really good, healthy eating. And so it's this whole like kumbaya. It's not really kumbaya, but that's what people think it is. But it's this whole thing, like what most entrepreneurs are not paying attention to, and getting you out of this little fishbowl of just Amazon and into something else. And it's called Level Up. And so I'm doing that this year for 3 days. And 8 days to be away from your family or your business is a long time for some people. So not everybody can stay that whole time. But I think after this first one, people are going to be like, next year when we're doing it in Iceland, my event's in Iceland next year. And so we're doing it there at the Blue Lagoon. And I think it's going to, a lot of people will get it. So I create experiences out of them. So it's not just another conference. So when people go, it's a total experience. We set the room up like a lounge. It's not
Kevin,
set up. Yeah. So
I got to ask you.
Yeah.
So when's the first time you remember monetizing mental capital?
I probably did it the first time in college. And when I was in, on any kind of scale, when I was in, I went to Texas A&M University, studied marketing. This was, I graduated over 30 years ago, but back then there was a class for all business students that all sophomores had to take called BANA, which stands for Business Analysis, BANA, Business Analysis, 217. And they had to learn the basic computing language. Nobody really uses BASIC anymore. There's all these, fancy languages and stuff that people, Python and all, all this stuff that people are using now. But back then it was the basic computing language because, this computer thing is going to be the next big thing. And this was in the late 80s. And so they taught you had to understand the logic of computers, of writing little code, little arrays or little code. And the teachers that taught this would teach the class. And there was 4 teachers, I think. But for whatever reason, I don't know why they did this. They would, the testing, you would do a test 3 times during the semester, and everybody did the test on the same day, no matter who your professor was. So I started tutoring people. I put up little ads, in the library, pull off this little sticker and call me. And I started with 1-on-1 and went to 1 to 2. It went to 1 to 8. It went to me getting a little room in the library with 15 people in there. And then what I started doing the second semester is it started growing so much. I was like, there's 1,000 kids taking this class because A&M was a big school. What if I was in direct marketing. So I was like, there's something in Texas called I think it's called the Sunshine Act, which means any public government thing it's public information. I forget the exact how to describe it, but basically I could go to the registrar's office at the beginning of the semester and say, give me a list on mailing labels of all the kids taking BANA 217 here. And they were like, we can't do that. I said, yes, you can. Here's the paper, Sunshine Act, section, whatever. Oh, okay. Well, we have to charge you for the little pill and stick labels, a penny a piece. Or I'm like, okay, here's my $30 or whatever the price was. And so they would print me out. The next day I'd come back and here's a big old stack of peel and stick, like Avery labels with 1,000 kids on it. I'd make a flyer and I would find out from the syllabus, when the syllabus came out, when the tests were. So if the semester started September 1st, maybe the first test was October 3rd, and there's one November 1st, and then one final in December or something. I would rent a Hyatt hotel ballroom in College Station, Texas, could hold 300 people or something. And I would send this flyer out at the beginning of the semester saying, on these dates, you can come pay $15, and I'm going to do a jam session, a study session, and I'm going to show you everything you need to know to pass the test. And it got to the point where I had to do 2 a night. So I'd do one at 6 or 5 or something, and another one at 7:30. And I would give them a little packet of
you were making $9,000.
No, yeah, I was making really good money. Yeah, I had like 500 people. I was making like $7,000 to $9,000 3 times a semester. So as a 20-year-old making $60,000 a year when you're in school, and this was back in the 80s when that was like 100 and something grand now.
Yeah.
I had the coolest stereo. I had the coolest, apartment. I had, all the nice stuff. I did that for several years. And so that was leveraging that mental capital. And the teachers would tell the students, don't go. It made them look bad. Why are they having to go pay this young punk kid $15 to learn how to do the stuff? That means they're not doing their job. But I actually did it for a year or 2 after I graduated. I drove back. I moved to Austin and I drove back and did it. And then they ended up changing the class enough and changing the way they did it to it just made it not really worthwhile anymore. But that would be my first time to actually leverage that.
So you saw a gap.
Yeah.
You saw that these students were not being prepared to pass this test. You knew that you could fill the gap, and then you figured out a way to create an audience and build that up. That's amazing. Kevin, if you could make a phone call back to Kevin King, I hand you a cell phone right now, and that cell phone goes to Kevin King, who is about to get those labels from the registrar's office. And you can have a 15-minute conversation with him and just tell him, hey, Kevin, this is Kevin from the future. It's been 30 years. What would be one thing you would tell him that might help him monetize mental capital even farther than he was already doing it?
I'd probably tell him to actually find out what other gaps are out there and build that into a company. You're good at doing this computer science, basic computing language, but there's probably other people that are good at physics or other people that are good at some other complicated, thing where people are having trouble, and see if you can't, bring on people like that and put them under you. And so that I'm not only working for my time, I'm taking a cut off of their time. I mean, that's something I would probably.
You figured out how to monetize your time. The real key to monetization in mental capital is figuring out how to take that and multiply it across other people.
Right.
That would be the nugget of information. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
is
what I.
about delegation, my friend.
Yep.
Yes, you're making 60K a year. That's great money. But this is but there is bigger and better means delegation.
Yep. I could turn that 60K into, if I had 5 other people doing what I'm doing, and I'm taking a 25% cut off of the top, and then yeah, I could have, that would have more than doubled my money
Right. Right. And it would have
for the same amount of, for just a little bit more work.
just
You
a
know,
little bit more work.
just helping them organize the system, and getting it up and
That's
going.
monetizing other people's mental capital.
Yep.
Like I love that.
What's
Okay.
that saying that there's that saying that if, oh man, I just had this quote in my newsletter, because in my newsletter I have something called parting shots, and I put a quote. It was something to the effect of, if you're not busy making, what was it? If you're not busy making your own money, or building your own wealth, all you're doing is helping someone else build theirs, or something to that effect.
Hey,
That's not the
that
exact wording, but something to that effect. So
I mean, if you're not busy building your own wealth, you're building someone else's is I mean that's a quote. I wonder who said that.
I have to go back and look. We probably can ask the Googles and see what the Google says. But yeah, it's a famous quote.
Interesting. Very interesting. This has been fascinating to watch and understand a little bit more about your mindset and the way you take advantage of some of these opportunities. For the final part of our podcast, what I like to do is I like to do two things. I'm going to give you 60 seconds, and you got 60 seconds to pitch anything you want. So if you want to pitch your newsletter, great. If you want to pitch, services in other side of whatever's there, you got 60 seconds. And imagining that you just stepped into an elevator and the guy next to you is like, yeah, I'm an 8-figure Amazon seller. And then, you got 60 seconds. After that 60 seconds, I'm going to ask you for any tips, tricks, hacks, or books that you've come across in the last year that have helped you upskill monetizing your mental capital.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So I am timing you. So I'm going to give you like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing, counting down. So you got 1 minute. Go.
Yeah. So I would say, if you want to, I'm involved in a lot of stuff. I have 8 different revenue sources in the Amazon space, but the number one thing I would recommend, if you're an 8-figure, you don't have to be an 8-figure seller. If you're selling on Amazon period, or an e-commerce period, I would recommend you get on my sign up for my newsletter. It's billiondollarsellers.com, billiondollarsellers.com. It's free, totally free. It comes out every Monday and Thursday like clockwork. I never miss. Even if it's Christmas Day or New Year's Day, you still get a newsletter. It might be a best of, but you get something. But you're going to learn more from that than you probably will anywhere else, and it's going to teach you. It's not a promotional email. It's not a come buy this. There's one ad in each one that people pay, but it's like a $25,000 mastermind in an email. So billiondollarsellers.com.
Hey, there you go. And you hit your timer there on the money. Kevin, that is fantastic. I think after this, I'm gonna have to go sign up for your newsletter. I have a good friend, Rolando Rosas, from Global Tech, and he was telling me, Kevin King, like love his newsletter. Like so I've heard about it before. Now I really do need to go sign up. That was great. Tell me tips, tricks, hacks, or books you've come across in the past year that have helped you upskill your ability to monetize mental capital.
So I buy a lot of books. I'll hear someone talk about some book, and I have a bookshelf full of probably 100 business books, and I don't think I've opened a single one of them. I buy them, and then they sit there. I read a lot of newsletters, so I read about 35 newsletters a day. Everything from Amazon stuff to AI to investing to just general news to a whole range of stuff that I'm interested in. I actually carve out about an hour and a half a day where I sit down, turn on some Buddha bar music, lounge music, and just read those. So that's probably the best thing for my mental capital, is staying on top. I like short nuggets. I don't like to read a big, long thing. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's ADD in me. But the number one thing probably I've done on the mental capital side is they always say that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And a lot of times in the Amazon space, I am the smartest person in the room. And so there's
Mm,
masterminds that are expensive out there. Some of them are 10 grand, some of them are 20 grand. There's some that are 100 grand. I've never joined a mastermind until just recently. And
mm,
I didn't join it in the Amazon space because I've always felt that if I'm going to pay 25 grand to join capitalism.com mastermind, which is a good mastermind, I'm probably going to be giving way more than I'm going to get just
mm,
because of the level I'm at and where I'm at. So I'm like, why they should be paying me or giving me this for free.
mm,
So I have never done it, but there's one called Driven that Perry Belcher does. He used to do a War Room with the guys at Digital Marketer,
mm,
and he's spun that off. And I've met to a couple of his, one as a guest, a free guest, and then I paid $5,000 to go to his most recent one in Austin, and then I ended up paying the $30,000 per year to join that. And it's because these are not. There's a few Amazon people in there, but it's 100 people, but they come in from all walks of life: email marketing, Facebook marketing, some of the top people in the space that know their stuff backwards and forwards.
mm.
And so I did that. And then when they did this one in Austin, I said, since you're in Austin, I live downtown Austin. The last night I said, I'll throw a little party at my house because I don't know most of these people, but I invite them, and I have a nice place around the river in Austin. And so I invite them to my place, and that creates bondings and
Yeah.
relationships so that
Yeah.
at the next one, they're like, hey, it was great coming to your place, and opens those doors. And so that for me is, and they do weekly Wednesday meetings that are really valuable.
Mm.
So that for me is probably the best thing for the mental capital and
Go find a mastermind.
keeping my game, my edge, and getting around people that know more than me about stuff that I might not know about, but I can take that and apply it to what I do on Amazon. Sometimes you'll learn at a funnel hacking live or at one of these things, like
Yeah.
some cool email tip or some cool funnel or some cool technique. And I'm like, you know what? Nobody's talking about that in the Amazon world. If we took that to the Amazon world and applied it, maybe tweak it a little bit, we could crush. And so
Yeah.
that's what
I
I
love
do.
that. I love that. Kevin, that is a fantastic hack. So find a mastermind. Don't be the smartest person in the room. Find a room where there are lots of people who are smarter than you in some other way, and stay on that bleeding edge of, cross-pollinating what's there. I love that. That's fantastic. Kevin, thank you so much. You've given lots of nuggets, lots of really interesting tidbits into your journey, clear back from the jam sessions in college, all the way to the 8 sources of revenue around Amazon that you're currently running. So it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, that's it. That's over and out for monetizing your mental capital.